we have just waited for some participants. Now it's time to start. So I will present the agenda of today before letting the floor to Miss Monica Verzola, which is the Vice President of the Lifelong Learning Platform. We are very happy to have her as an introductory speaker today, especially on the main theme of this event, which is linked to the main theme of the Lifelong Learning Week 2021. After the Monica Verzola introduction, we will go through a panel discussion, which will imply some experts, international experts. The first one should be Sabina, coming from the Enterprise Europe Network based in Pécs in Hungary. Then Milan Dobrev from the Ruse Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Bulgaria. And then the president of DLearn, European Digital Learning Network, which is Gianluca Coppola. The European Digital Learning Network is also the organizer of this event. Then it will be my turn to present you the results and some of the recommendations related to a project that we are going to finish in the next month, related to the new craft skills. We called it Craft 4.0 because we dealt with digital skills in a traditional field like the craftsmanship. Then we will have a debriefing discussion and a closing of our meeting. So just to keep our schedule, I let you now. I let the floor to Monica Verzola. I stop my screen sharing in order she can have her introductory speech. Please, Monica, go.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this new session organized in the framework of the 2021 edition of the Lifelong Learning Week. Just to briefly introduce myself, I'm Monica Verzola, Lifelong Learning Platform's Vice President and member of the steering committee on behalf of EFTA, the Vocational Training Association. It is a true pleasure for me to be here with you to frame today's topic, which is the assessment of the learning outcomes of professionals. As I'm sure you all know, the theme of evaluation in lifelong education and training is indeed very prominent at the Lifelong Learning Platform, so much so that it is part of our annual theme for this year's conference, through which we aim to explore the connection of the impact of assessment with learners' well-being. As you might already know, the Lifelong Learning Platform strongly believes that assessments can and should better align with individuals' well-being, and this can be applied to both young and adult learners, of course, in a lifelong learning perspective. In this sense, we intend to promote a holistic conception of assessments, one that is based on learners and societal needs, and that is not detrimental to well-being, but instead conducive to it. Linked to this, let us pause for a moment to reflect on how complex this last period has been and still is for workers. On a micro level, we have SMEs, including craft business, which actually constitute the backbone of the European Union's economy and play a vital role for its growth and development. I think it's well known that for a while they have been in the midst of a global transition towards a digital and green economy and society. Besides this ongoing process, what I believe the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us is that traditional ways of doing businesses are at risk and urgently require a change of pace in order to counteract the disruptive challenges posed by the digital transformation of the emerging fourth industrial revolution. Against this context, enabling further digitalization of self-employed and of micro, small and medium enterprises, including craftsmanship ones, with supportive strategies for their introduction and orientation, has become a key step for inclusive growth in Europe. Only through systematic guidance via dedicated means of support can SMEs harness the potential benefits in productivity and competitiveness deriving from developing digital competencies for inclusive growth. On a more, let's say, human level, I think that, again, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have come to realize how vital prosperity, or as experts say in a broader etymological sense, flourishing is. Being a worker often means being also a parent, a son or a daughter, a citizen, a taxpayer, and the weight of the ongoing changes I have just described are huge. And these changes become even more unbearable if workers who are projected in transition towards a more digital and sustainable Europe are not properly supported in the review of their skills, in particular of those learned in the work context. An absence or inadequacy of this process leads to complex consequences for a worker, which can lead to job loss and social exclusion. Moreover, if we shift our focus to the world of craftsmen, we additionally realize how great the expectations for their future are. A future that is linked to a consolidated and wise tradition, a future that undoubtedly requires new skills. These professionals are often not aware of innovation potential, struggle to understand what and how to digitalize their work practices, which technology to use, how to prioritize goals, and which organizational changes, for example, skills and roles, are required. The craftsmanship sector encapsulates the challenges of the new skills agenda and the priority of cohesion policies. It is an area where digitalization will perhaps have the same impact as tradition, an area where a sustainable approach will also need to be readily adopted. Given these premises, let's move forward by setting some further common ground. And I will use some slides to do that. Just a moment. Okay. So, what do we mean by educational assessment or educational evaluation? Well, to cite a publication from the LLP repertoire, that is the systematic process of documenting and using empirical data on the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and beliefs to refine programs and improve individuals' learning. From a more technical point of view, the assessment of professionals' competencies is based on learning outcomes, which are defined also based on the needs of the labor market. Learning outcomes must indeed be linked to the work context, to single work processes and their related tasks, and to their position in different areas of activity. This connection is represented by the expected results, which correspond to the actual capacity to do something required by business and crafts ones as well, in order to evaluate the actual competencies of worker in respect to the different activities foreseen by their job position.
Outcomes.
At international level, there is more and more consensus on the need to update the evaluation paradigm in learning processes by integrating traditional and summative approaches with formative and learner-centered ones. In particular, in a context where lifelong learning and the learning to learn competencies are deemed to be crucial for the individual to adapt to work and fast societal changes, assessment plays a great role, and consequently the active participation of the individual in the assessment process becomes of paramount importance. And this is exactly where alternative forms of assessment come to play. Non-standardized assessment methods and tools, possibly following a personalized approach, are in many cases the most appropriate solutions, as they require less substantial resources to be set up, do not have to be translated into grades, can be better adapted to the context in which they are applied, especially work-based and lifelong learning ones. In this sense, methodologies such as peer learning and assessment, as well as self-assessment, have proved to bring the most innovation and diversity in recent years. Self and peer assessment or learning are indeed often used together also in non-formal education in order to amplify the benefits that both techniques bring to young and adult learners. Firstly, self-assessment. This methodology combines three elements, and namely self-monitoring, self-evaluation, and the identification plus implementation of corrective measures as needed. In this way, learners of all ages are able to apply cyclical, ongoing assessments to their learning pathways. I think this approach is widely shared at European level, and an example for that can be seen in the SELFIE VBL, Work-Based Learning Initiative, promoted by the European Commission. This evolution of SELFIE represents a unique tool to support companies and education and training institutions in the evaluation of their use of technologies and of their digital competences, and this is applied to training and apprenticeships programs. Going back to what I was saying, we can have another important evaluation methodology, peer learning or peer reviewing. These both have a strong educational function, which is oriented towards mutual benefit and development in order to specifically focus on continuous quality improvement. And how propulsive is this type of collaboration for one's work? And on this note, allow me to take just a brief, let's say, historical reflection together. In the craftsmanship world, peer learning and reviewing have very deep roots. Just think about the meaning behind masterpiece, an exceptionally good piece of creative work produced to obtain membership of a corporation in one visual arts and craft sector. Artist fitness to qualify for guild membership was judged by peers, partly based on the masterpiece. Of course, this is just an example, but it provides some kind of evidence that peer assessment has worked in the past and can continue to support evaluation even today. I believe that these types of assessments can be fruitfully put to use in the vocational training sector, which encompasses by nature more practice or work-based environments. Of course, in order to ensure that these assessments actually work, we do not only need to keep our focus on workers and their peers, but also have to envisage a proper training for trainers, company tutors, and of any other professionals involved in the process. That being said, well, I hope that this short introduction of mine did provide, again, some common ground for the intervention to come. I would like to thank the organizer of this event for having me, and I look forward to hearing what the distinguished panel of speakers will add on the topic. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for your very, very inspiring introduction. You mentioned a lot of. I'm sure that you mentioned a lot of concepts in the items that also our very distinguished participants in the panel we are going to go through. As you maybe remember from the agenda, we focused the next panel discussion on the transition from traditional to digital skills, which is so central when we talk about craftsmanship, which is based more based in invention, in manual ability, in tradition. So we are very curious to know about our host, about our guests, what they are thinking about this transition from a very traditional way to do the profession of the craft people, using new technologies, and how they can acquire digital skills to do it in a very efficient way. So I will leave the floor in the panel discussion to our first guest, which is Sabina Pazarek from Enterprise Europe Network. And I would like to ask her about what's your opinion, what's your experience, Sabina, on the mindset to get and use digital skills, which, as I mentioned, is especially important for the activities like the craftsmen's, where skills are very often based on experience, on traditional. What's your opinion on that?
Welcome everyone. Hi. So as Marco said, I'm Sabina Pazarek. I'm from Enterprise Europe Network. And regarding the question, well, first of all, thank you very much for Monica's presentation, because many useful information was already said in that. But as of the mindset, in an ideal world, in case of a craftsman, as Marco mentioned, when we're talking about the craftsmanship, the different professions, in order to acquire the level of knowledge in any kind of craftsmanship, they had to require deep knowledge and skills associated with that traditional craftsmanship, artisanry, and it was passed on them through repetition, to lifelong learning processes, and I think this kind of learning process assumes that they already have an open mind, that they already recognize the fact that they, in order to reach more clients, that in order to develop their own businesses, craftsmen, and provide the necessary visibility for their products, their objects that they're creating, they always have to be ready to learn new things and to be open to develop themselves. And what is very important, to see their craftsmanship also as a business. Because in my experience, when we're working with creative companies, entrepreneurs, they often define themselves as artists. And in this case, it's very hard to introduce to them their own work, their own activities as a business activity, and that they have to think about this kind of aspects of what they're doing. It doesn't matter how much they must already mastered their crafts. If they can't market it, they can't sell it, they can't make it visible for the target audience. First of all, this is, I think, the very first step. In many cases, they are so much lost in their craftsmanship. They don't even know exactly who they want to sell their own products. And but back to the topic, how can we set their mind to this direction? How can we introduce them to the different topics of digitalization and its necessity? I think it's very important how we present these specific topics, because for craftsmen, for creative industry, businesses, entrepreneurs, it's very important that we can make an effect on them if we present these kind of digital skills that they can be acquired through different learning experiences, workshops, trainings. If we try to to tell them that it's just another way, just another channel where they can make their products more visible, that they can reach even more people than before. In my experience, what was already said before, the peer-to-peer learning, when another craftsman, another creative business owner introduce them to these opportunities, to the possibility to learn new digital skills, use a digital tool, it's absolutely the first thing that you should do, because it gives you such a credibility, and it's a very great trust building step that we as intermediaries, as educators, as any kind of institution or association who try to provide information and help to these craftsmen and creative companies should implement, integrate in our approach for any kind of digital skill development in the future or at the present. I think it's very important. And another thing, when we're trying to set the mindset for requiring the new digital skills, I think what is really important, in addition that we try to appeal and appeal on their sense of visibility and how can they present themselves on the virtual platforms too. How can they turn the
Sabina, we cannot hear you anymore.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I don't know, maybe the net is not the best. As you can see, digital technology is not always the most reliable, but we're trying to make enhancement in that too. So anyway, what we need is to make all the craftsmen realize that they do need the right mix of skills in order to enhance their businesses, and the digital skills not only beneficial for their works, their crafts, even not just in the marketing and distribution of their products, but also at the creation point of their activities. So technological, artistic, organizational, and management skills are all required in order to someone be successful and stay competitive in this globalized market, even in the different craftsmanships. At least that is how I see it and what my experience is. But also it's really good news because yes, it is a global market, but with the usage of different digital tools, and when creative businesses open to develop their own digital skills, I definitely see that there are a very big market for these kind of products and services, and absolutely can recommend to go to that direction if someone not already in any kind of creative business. So in summary, peer-to-peer learning, it's absolutely the greatest way to build trust and to actually make them realize that they do need digital skills, that they do need to be open to that kind of development in themselves, in their businesses, and their production in their workflow. And the other thing is that I think the educational institutions, the intermediaries, the different kind of institutions who are available and ready to help them assess and learn the different informations, to turn them into knowledge that they can turn into factors to be more competitive in their fields. So these two things, that we involve already digitally skilled and advanced craftsmen, creative businesses in any kind of learning process, and that we make them aware that there are available information sources, institutions who are ready to help them in any way that they need it. I don't know if the other ones are agreeing with these statements or have anything to add on this part.
Yes, I'm also curious to know, especially what Milan think on what you said. I think he's working for a chamber of commerce, so I suppose he's dealing daily with how to take this kind of activity that you defined, not only related to craft, but also to the art. So I would like to ask the same question to Milan. I really appreciated your very comprehensive picture of the situation, which is very complex, Sabina, because we have to consider not only the technical skills, but as well the management skills, the communication skills, which are related to the new digital opportunities for the craft people. So I let now the floor to Milan to hear his opposition on this mindset to pass through from the traditional skills to the digital ones.
Yes, thank you, Marco. Thanks for inviting me to this interesting event where I can share also our experience from Bulgaria as a Chamber of Commerce. As you mentioned, indeed, we have really plenty of experience with such kind of craftsmen, artisans, even entrepreneurs from the creative industries. So I can speak a lot because at the same time we are also dealing with different projects for support of this kind of people, especially related to digitalization. Well, in fact, I can totally agree and share the same thoughts like Sabina about what are the needs, the importance, the advantage, the challenges, the problems. In fact, more or less, this kind of craftsmen and artisans have more or less the same problems, the same challenges, because no matter if it's someone who is engaged in a more traditional craftsmanship, like pottery, for example, or it's more contemporary, modern work related with 3D printing, for example, all of them really need to make a shift in their mindsets and to start being more competitive by thinking about how to sell what they do, if it's a product or a service, how to be more creative, more effective. So bringing digital technologies and digital skills to their work is it's really a must. Although most of them are doing, for example, things by their hands, but at the same time they need to be on a market. So they have to sell themselves. Some thoughts about bringing digital skills for in their activities. It actually has different aspects that are to be useful. For example, speaking about from the perspective of the product or service they develop, there could be digital skills and digital technologies that are related with improving this product or service or making it easier for them to produce it. The other aspect is what kind of technologies or digitalization skills they can use for bringing those products or services to their potential customers. Of course, it's a whole bunch of technologies related with e-trade, marketing, social media, and many other things. I wish also to bring the attention to another concept that it's really important, especially for the people from this kind of industries, from creative industries. It's a kind of third dimension that is related with using digital skills and platforms for co-working, co-creation, collaboration. Sometimes it's related with crowd working. So this is something that gaining such skills and using such tools could help any representative from any craftsman to bring added value to what they do, added value to the product, by uniting the skills and the knowledge of other craftsmen. They can produce something which is a product of synergy between them. And by using this kind of applications or platforms, they can link to other craftsmen, share their experience, produce something in common that it doesn't matter where they are located. You can produce something and work with another craftsman from Japan or from South America or whatever, wherever in the world. So this is important, and I also think that, and this is what we see from for the last few years, let's say last couple of years, that one of the, let's say, positive things related with COVID is that there are many people who have learned to use, because they were pushed to use collaboration, online working, co-working tools. So there are plenty of people who have learned that this is really a big opportunity for them. All these platforms, all these digital tools and skills allow them to have a better access to labor, to generate more creative ideas, to gain inspiration by communicating with other people or see what others do. They are more flexible, they have better access to clients, so it's not only your local market, you have the whole world for this. You can bring innovation and in general, very good opportunities for growth. So we see a lot of craftsmen that were taught by, for example, their parents or grandparents in something, and they, instead of doing just a family business, they started doing international business. So there is a huge potential for going out in the world market. I saw people that were selling literally to every continent, different products they produce by hand, and it's really appreciated by their clients. So maybe I can stop for the moment. I think that these are the most reflections that we gain from the projects that we have implemented, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay.
Yes, yes, Milan. Thanks for your input. We are also going to present a project in the next session of this event, and I will find some of the elements you mentioned in what we did since now in the project. So I recognize that most of the elements you mentioned are crucial and central for the craftsmen of working in a global world, and I think that the sharing platform and the sharing processes in which all the professionals, also the craft people, were pushed to deal with due to the pandemics, is a great opportunity to open their mind and to open their activity to the world, to exit and to stop being just very local, and having the opportunity to learn from other people wherever they are. It's a sort of peer learning that we mentioned since the beginning of this event. So I had appreciated what some of the inputs you mentioned. You will find it also in my presentation afterwards. So I let the floor now to Gianluca Coppola. I suppose he has a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation related to the structural transformation for the VET education in the field of digital skills, especially.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thanks, Marco, for the introduction. Thanks also the colleagues that have been presenting before me, which has left very interesting, inputs where to start from my, I would say not presentation, but I would call it more a reflection, a shared reflection with you. What we learned for sure during this experience of the project we have been running in the last 2 years is that there is no doubt the craft sector is a very profitable one. Profitable for business, it's something that seems also that colleagues from chambers of commerce have been, remembering. But it's also the truth that when it comes to the education, craft sector needs a very specific, path to educate the people or re-educate the craftsmen already, for example, present on the market. I just mentioned the fashion industry or the shoes industry or any other clusters with is a lot based on craftsmen which experience year by year lots of problems in finding the right people for producing any kind of those goods. So the issue here is to find, to educate, to prepare young generations to work into this kind of sector, or to upskilling or reskilling the people who already works into the sector. So what we know, and the ground of my reflection is that for sure, yes, the market needs a lot of craftsmen in a lot of sector, and we need to find, in my opinion, a suitable way for educate or accelerate the education of these people, but also B, to educate these people in a very effective way. And what we found, just to mention why I was thinking to this, I'm going to mention it was that until 2019, at least before the pandemic starts, we were being using into running a European research about the future of digital education, trying to understand what into education sector in the school or university or vet center or adult center, what was the feeling, what was also the actual solution that providers of education was looking for or was implementing in terms of digital education for meeting the challenges, but also the opportunities. And lots of data were being taken thanks to the research, which is however now already open after 2 years for collecting also inputs in order to have a kind of comparison between the last data and the future one. And what we learned, and for this just I'm going to share very few slides to have your attention on what I'm saying, is that we found that in particular the vet education sector is going under a very profound transformation. I'm not going, of course, to much quote the 4 major changes that the vet sector is living, from the increasing need for lifelong learning in a non-linear world, of course, because the way we get education is very different from the past, even different from only 5 or 6 years ago. The evolving needs and expectation of the student consumer, because this is what is the most actual, shape of the student at any kind of education, formal or non-formal. The student is really getting closer to become a consumer of education with all, the challenges and but also the threats that this may means, but also the fact that the research show how emerging technologies are more and more getting closer closer to new business models. It is not a case, for example, that the biggest, technologies companies, from Google to Amazon to Apple to many others, have been running lately in the last 3 or 4 years their own education centers, very much based, or in some cases totally based on providing digital education. It's not a case that in a very close future the traditional educational organization will find themselves new competitors on the market, which is not a new school or a new Tibet center, but maybe Netflix or maybe Google or maybe technology giant, for example. And the fact also that now the job market is very used in going to a skills over degrees model. So market where job market where the traditional way to access the market, which is getting a degree, for example, is probably going to disappear in 20-25 years, because the focus will be more and more on getting skills from the people and not only degrees. And this is linked for, which is the core part of my reflection. We learned a lot from this research. I say yes, in the VET system, but also in the other educational levels, but in particular for the VET system and in particular for the craft sector, I have been, catching by one of the data we got, so that the augmented and virtual reality is not or are not very well known technologies into the VET education. This is at least what happens in Europe until 2019. Things are slightly changed, but the trend is that educational institutions does not yet recognize augmented and virtual reality as feasible solutions for education, in particular in the VET education, and in a specific way to the craft sector. Because if we think the craft sector as a sector where the education must transfer competencies and skills to the people, to transfer the creativity from the brain to the hands, then it is logical to think that education must be based on very practical activities. So it is logical and it is natural that it's just a matter of time. All the VET sectors or the sector connected with the professional schools will be more and more impacted by the use of augmented or virtual reality solution, because it is obviously, if we think that the augmented reality, just to clarify what both technology are and what are the benefits, but also and somehow the obstacles. Augmented reality is when we use the environment around us and overlays the animation or any form of information of it. It's something that we can experience, for example, by our smartphone or by our tablet, for example. It's very common to see, for example, it's an image I always offer when I present something like this. It's very common now in our touristic cities, looking at the groups of tourists, looking with the smartphone tablet to some monument and getting information of that monument. That's augmented reality. So solutions which, let's say, make the information on the environment around us more, I would not say interesting, but let's say will give us back more information than the only we can get just looking at a given monument. One of the practical benefits of this technology, for example, for the students, is that it is a self-paced learning, self-evaluation, and offer flexible times, but also as a limit by the fact that let's say it requires some you know, a degree of efforts in creating you know, augmented reality environments, but also there is a benefit that we do not need a specific hardwares or very cost softwares for running augmented reality experience. If you ask me, is that good for vet environments or for craft vet environments, I will say maybe not. What I see very much in the future is the virtual reality. Virtual reality is when we create an entirely artificial environment, which may be an entirely artificial environment connected with, for example, things that a craftsman should experience, should learn. You, for example, imagine a tailor which have to learn how to cut a piece of textile and how to cut perfectly. That is perfectly embeddable into a virtual reality scenario. And I may give you hundreds of examples. There are industries that are already using these kind of solutions. There are beautiful examples also in Germany or in Northern Europe, in Finland, in Norway, in Sweden, in some other countries, but it's really a solution that in the US or in Japan or in Korea is probably now already at one of the first places when it comes to speak about vet education, because you can imagine it gives you the possibility to experience by, of course, wearing special glasses. This is one of the obstacles, because of the virtual reality versus the augmented reality needs specific softwares for to run, specific hardware, needs a lot of investments to create the educational scenario we need for educating our students. But you imagine the advantages we can have into running a course from Italy or from Belgium or from everywhere in educating people in any other country, like if they were in a classroom in front of us, letting them making their mistakes. The tailor who cut in a wrong way the textile, and he can repeat millions of times, for example, without wasting textiles and so on. So, you know, the advantages, the imagination on how to use virtual reality into education are really limitless. Is also a solution that I see perfectly usable for help the students focus on the topic they have to learn. It's beautiful for contributing to inclusivity, because it's something that it's naturally born inclusive, eliminate the language barriers, because you do not need a teacher, an educator speaking a given languages to be understood, but it's it can be run by just images, so eliminating languages barriers and so on. Of course, it is very good for personalized learning, for reason to improve the learning process and so on. So this is the way I see in the future the way to educate sorry, the future craftsmen. And this is the way to have to meet the acceleration of their education, but also a better feasibility for them. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Gianluca. You mentioned some skepticism, which are quite common when you talk about new technologies, and we are talking about digital in general. So this is also what happened. Just to pass to the next session. This is why this is what we met when we ran the project that I'm going to to present to you very briefly, because we are a little bit late in the agenda, in the schedule. So we met, of course, and we of course skepticism by the craft people, because they used to traditionally to use their hands to build their product very concretely. So the transition, as Gianluca mentioned, from their brain, their ideas, throughout digital tools, from a concrete result, is not so easy to understand, and not too easy to assess. So that's also why we launched this this project. I'm going to share my screen now and show you just a little presentation on about the project, which is called Craft 4.0, founded by the Erasmus program, Erasmus Plus program. Why this project? Because the time is now, because the digital technologies applied to the craft sector are evolving, but especially they are getting cheaper, and so for that reason they becoming more accessible. We started with a need analysis involving many craft people, and we discovered that at the time when the computerization of the design and the making processes seems to eliminate hands-on making, we have to support people and to help people to understand how they can survive, and how they can use this opportunity to improve their activities. There are many tools, digital tools, computer softwares, imaging, modeling, stretching, that can allow to overtake the boundaries in making in a craft way products that they can be sold on the market. Of course, the emergence of these affordable digital manufacturing and fabrication tools has a very strong potential, and they can reshape radically the practice, the way to product, and also the consumption of the goods. You have to imagine that in Europe, 57% of artisans, of craft people, actually use digital technologies in their practice. And the majority of these doing so often or all the time, while 30% of those are using digital technologies for designing, and 20% for making, and 24% for businesses purposes. Marketing, communication, and photography. So the time is now, and the project was aimed to give information and provide training tools for craft people in the area of digital marketing technologies, such as 3D printing, laser cutting, and computerized numerical control machines, and so on. Also being aware that digital technologies like virtual reality, previously mentioned by Gianluca, should be intended as supporting the craft practices and not replacing it. There are a lot of different technologies. I don't know if you are familiar with, but of course there are technologies called additive manufacturing tools like 3D printing. There are many materials for 3D printing, which in the end take to very different results. So you can use nylon or different types, ABS, PLA, resins. I have to admit that I'm not at all familiar with this materials, but they are improving day by day. The craft people can join to better results every day. So you can use also laser cutting tools. You can use, as I said, computerized numerical control machines. You have to imagine that with those machines, you can cover more or less all the branches of mechanics and also beyond. The most common machines are maybe some of them you can know. Press brakes, punching machines, milling machines, welding machines. So you can imagine that craft people has many tools to do better what they are used to do just manually, just in one exemplar. So it is possible to repeat and to test and to try and to make errors and to change very quickly, advise and to adapt and so on. There are also digital shape capture. So there are many fields in where digital tools can help craft people. So the project that I'm going to present you very briefly was coordinated by the Technological University of Dublin, which a large partnership involved 7 countries. DLearn was one of the partners of the project, and the project resulted in 3 main outputs: a manual describing how the craft people, the craft entrepreneur is evolving. What should be then their skills and competencies in order to work in a different, more modern and more globalized environment. Then we elaborated a training model and training contents. I will show you in a while a training platform which is going to be ready in the next days. And in the end, we would like to draw some guidelines and recommendations for, of course, for the VET actors and for the craft people as well. So we started with the questionnaires. We shown case studies to the craft people. We also created. We also took advantage from different focus groups in order to collect informations, in order to collect needs, also learning needs from the craft people. So to establish the methodological cornerstones for the development of a new figure of the craft people 4.0. This is an example of the case studies. This is an example of the result of the focus group. We covered different topics. The one was related to the format of learning, which will allow us to build the learning platform, which I mentioned before. Some of the data, as I maybe mentioned, 60% of the craft people we involved in the project used the 3D printing or the computerized control machines, the digital modeling 61%, the laser cutting more or less the same rate. They would like they assess, but just half of them assess to the training to do it. Most of them are let me say self learners. They buy machines and they try to understand better how they make it working according to their needs. So it is not the case that 93% of people involved is interested in developing skills. What we learn, some of the hints we received from the craft people during the project. So how can craft people can use these tools, these new technologies? Why do they have to evolve in a 4.0 format? Some of the answers are that these tools can be used just for a part of a piece. It doesn't have to be the whole thing you are going to produce. Not always, but the finished piece, it can be used as a part of the making process. 3D printing can support existing processes in the craft sector. For instance, in the mold making, they could give the client the right perception of the final product. They can push boundaries of what you can achieve with the traditional materials or processes. They could for sure also help in the design stage, which is essential for the final product. One of the must is that they can help you to save time, and they can make your daily work more efficient. and of course you can even also save money. But it can help you marketing products, so you can share more easily a model of a piece to show a client or to show throughout a digital platform everywhere in the world. You can for sure use these tools to repeat, to modify, to test, to make mistakes, and to re-elaborate. They give the craft people more precision and perfection, which is not always the results the craft people would like to achieve. We have to be aware of that. But if you have to then to produce what you realize in the digital design, it is always your product, even if it is a machine that in the end make the product. The training, why we were dealing with the training, because of this number, 93% need to be involved in the development of their skills. So while digital manufacturing is more accessible, we have to consider that it remains a lot of knowledge barriers. I mentioned before that most of the people used to be a self-learner, both in manufacturing processes and also in using software. Gianluca mentioned the virtual reality, but to allow a 3D printer to make the product, before you have to design this product with your computer using CAD, CAD tools. You have to conceptualize, but for sure you should be able to use this also this digital designing tools. So that's why we developed an online training platform aimed especially to the art and craft sector, dealing with digital modeling, digital manufacturing, additive manufacturing processes. But we also we are aware that we miss one important thing. Also, also you all explain how is important the peer learning, how is important sharing the learning. So what is missing actually on the platform is the part related to the community, the part related to the forum, to share the knowledge. So just to have an insight of that, you can find the platform, you can access the platform throughout the website, or its proper link. The platform is based on, is organized around 6 modules and many units. The modules are craft design and digital technologies, in which there are 13 units in digital making, additive, subtractive. Additive, I mean the 3D printing, which is based on a layer put to another layer, so another added to another layer. There are many subtractive technologies that are supposed to cut or to reshape or to turn. Then there are a module related to the digital design, which is an important piece of the it's a masterpiece, let me say, of the daily work of a craftsman 4.0. There are examples on how to go from digital to physical, from the CAD to the machine processing. There are examples on how digital craft can be related to the practices, taking into consideration the different materials, from ceramics to wood, to textile, to paper, to jewels. All these materials can be worked with digital machines and digital technologies. Then craft futures, just some highlights on intellectual property, sustainability of the production, and so on. And in the end, a lot of specifically 10 case studies where 10 craft people described how they started their business, what were the barriers to overcome, how they dealt with, how they succeeded. Also, because we are convinced that the showing the case studies could help many more everyday more craft people to access digital manufacturing machines. This is the look and the structure of the platform based on the modules I mentioned. Just let me say a few words on the concept, on the specificity of this platform. Is based on tutorials. It is let me say, an online way to intend the peer learning, because you learn from concrete examples. The videos can help very much in this sense. So there are many videos in there with instructions, with subtitles. There are so many practical presentations. There are case studies, so examples. We differentiated the level of learning. So for some of the contents are addressed to the beginners, some other to intermediate learners. And we are waiting, as I told you, to put on the platform fora and self-assessment learning. Just a brief inside of the platform. I don't know if you can see my screen, or if you can. Do you continue seeing my presentation, or you can see the?
Yes, Marco, we see your presentation.
Okay, sorry, just a second. Okay, I'll share you just a little bit the platform. This is how the platform looks like. with the different modules, and in each module you can go through the video and you will see and hear about the content. They are very short one, very didactical one, especially thought for helping you in the process. Okay, of course they are addressed to the people learning craft techniques. I don't know if you want, I'm going inside, but maybe it's a little bit too late. You can you have information about the duration. You can mark when you have completed, and then went back to the main page. You will see at what point of the learn process you get. So I stop my sharing just to conclude. Coming back to my presentation. Just a second. Okay. Okay. Just to conclude. With some recommendation about the learning we got from the project. We worked on online training materials, especially because we consider that for craft people, videos and step-by-step tutorials and sample are the best way to make them aware about the content, to help them learning the content. We introduced a blended learning, a mix of tutorial, and we would like to have also via the forum an hands-on experience, a combination of digital computer competence and material consciousness. We worked on a peer-to-peer via forum and community. We addressed to different level of learning, and we put inside the platform various contents on this online platform based on a so-called cafeteria model, which allowed the learner to take what he need to take. We are very aware that especially for this kind of learning, mentor and facilitator of the learning would be very, very important. Very, very important, especially when you address very technological contents. You should need someone can follow you and support you during the learning. And also we are going to deliver certificates, because we know very well that craft people need for certification of their and assessment of their learning outcome. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for following this long presentation. I know that we are more or less at the end of our agenda. Let me just ask the participant, so the panelist, and Monica, if you want to add something. Otherwise, I just thank you very much for. Just let me know if you want to intervene to say something as a conclusion. Otherwise, I was very happy to have you all here for all the event. I hope it has been interesting for you. I hope you can share what we presented, and if there are not many interventions, I look at Monica or.
I just want to thank you instead, because it was a really fruitful meeting and really enriching, and that has very well addressed the challenges that we are all fighting for. And so thank you so much for organize that among the LL Week. We're very happy to have you here. So yes, thank you again.
Thank you for hosting us in such an interesting initiative. We also hope to be able to meet in face-to-face next year, to have another lifelong learning week in presence. But so thanks so much for your participation. And thanks so much for your patience, and I hope see you soon next time. Bye bye.
Bye, Marco.